Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Marketing Mix Unmixed episode 10. Today, we have with us Premjeet Sodhi, a person with immense knowledge about marketing and media strategy. His career spans an impressive 25 years and he's still going strong. Premjeet, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much for inviting me, Venkat. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you. I'm well, all is good. Thanks so much. Just
Uh,
getting ready for the holiday period now. Yeah.
thanks for joining me today, Premjit. Of course, your career spans so much. If I were to, introduce yourself, it would take at least 5, 10 minutes for that. But a very impressive, career you have had. Your career spans an impressive 25 years, as I said. Tell us about your career journey. How did you get started in marketing, media strategy, and measurement?
Yeah, it's been a long time, yes. It's good to look back to it. No regrets whatsoever. But yeah, this did not really happen by design, frankly. Yeah. You can call me a very confused person, so to say. I started with engineering, went into rural management at IRMA. Uh, But in my work, as I look back, I see is that I've always lived around data and numbers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whether it was when I was working in finance during the early part of my career, where it was of analyzing risk or credit rating of companies, that was all about analyzing balance sheets and P&L statements and various other things about companies. I think that same skill led me to market research, where again, it was not only about learning all the ways of market research, but analyzing the data and creating a story for the clients. That was interesting. And eventually, when I got into media, from market research in general, I went into media research, and from media research, something I found an affinity to. So I got deeper into it, and that led me to a media agency at that time called Intaz Media Group, part of Low, now IPG and all that. So, and there, from there, the journey started. I got into media strategy, but again, the difference I brought to the table was my media strategy was not from a what should I say, creative lens or feel good strategy, but it was hard data led strategy, which came because of my past with numbers. And eventually, I made a conscious call a few years back to let go of strategy as a subject and get fully into measurement and analytics, because I thought that was the missing piece as the industry evolved, and I landed into measurement and analytics, and yeah, still a student of the subject in that sense today.
Yeah, that's very humble of you to say. Of course, already alluded to the fact that you have moved on to marketing measurement and analytics. To the viewers, what is marketing measurement and analytics, and how does it help the brands? If you can shed some light.
Yeah, the reason I moved to this industry was because I thought it was extremely important for brands.
Mhm.
Uh, it's the whole economic or the consumer landscape has evolved so radically, right? There's so much choice, right? It's no longer about I'll you can buy any car as long as the color is black, or I don't know the exact phrase, but yeah, now the choices are immense, and that immense choice creates a whole different way in which the consumer goes through the so-called consumer journey. And that is accentuated further by the boom which has happened in media itself, right? The media choices are huge. Earlier, when the days I grew up, it was television at max. The crazy question used to be which channels to advertise on television, and now it's just endless, the plethora of choices which is there. And in all of this, I think the pressure on brands is that you don't have the luxury of being present everywhere. So how do you make that acute choice of where do you want to be present? How do you engage with the consumer? How do you drive relevance with the brand? And while all that is being done already, I think optimizing the investments is a very important piece for brands to be sustainable and be competitive in the market. And I think that's where marketing measurement really comes in. It really tells you what is working for you, how you should change it for the future, and what can increase your ROI and so on and so forth. So I think that's a very pivotal role that it plays in the overall marketing ecosystem.
Understood. How has marketing measurement and analytics changed over the years? Of course, you have spent more than 25 years in this space. I'm pretty sure you must have started when the internet was in the ascendancy, and now we have, all these LLMs and large language models, chatbots, etc. Can you take us into a flashback and narrate how things have changed from, say, 2000 to 2025?
Yeah, I won't be able to really put the milestones by years per se, but if I were to talk generally, yes, this tells you how old I am.
Mhm.
Yeah, the pre-digital era when digital was coming in, internet was coming in, the beautiful sound of the modems, handshake signals used to be something that told you that you had arrived and you had evolved. But yeah, that time the media choices were easy, right? It was OTS was the one single thing, which still is universal to advertising, but OTS was very simple, and it was about a couple of mediums and how do I be present on it. And just being on media itself used to be a mark of success for many brands. Yeah, that itself was enough to grow the brands. From that pre-digital area, so to say, uh, at that time, I think the measurement was very fundamental, right? Very basic. But of course, if I may say, the pre-digital area, as you come closer to lot farther away from the noise of the modems, uh, when internet had happened, but digital has not really picked up. I remember there used to be client meetings where there used to be debate of whether I should spend this INR 5 lakhs. Uh, I can't immediately tell you how much is in the dollar terms, but whether we should spend that money on digital, right? And uh, check to today is where the discussion happens is, do we need to do television now? So it's a fundamental change. But at that time, early part of it, measurement was becoming important, right?
Mhm.
I would say that accountability, measurement, these topics were coming up as agencies did, as auditors came into the picture, as consultancies came into the pitch processes and evaluation processes. I think measurement was picking up,
Mhm.
and it would have grown well. But I think the moment digital happened, and that's I think is a second era. Therefore,
Mhm.
when digital picked up and started scaling up, digital brought a whole new promise of measurement. Yeah,
Mhm.
and uh, the whole focus of measurement moved to the digital, and digital largely focused on the last mile, or the promise of you pay only if an impression is served, or you pay only if somebody views your ad, was extremely attractive, right? Attribution, especially with retail coming in again, it only accentuated the problem. So think there was a false sense of comfort that we have measurement now.
Mhm.
It also disintegrated a lot of the syndicated measurement pieces which existed. So somewhere I think that distracted the whole industry on measurement. But now I think people have advertisers, smart advertisers have realized that the fallacy of a lot of the digital measurement. I'm not saying every digital measurement is bad, but we know how particularly attribution has made people believe that it's the last mile which makes everything happen. Now that has thinking has changed, and I believe that now measurement is picking up. That's why we see the resurgence of market mix models. There's the whole reincarnation of A/B testing or incrementality testing, which is the new word for it. So I think there's been an immense growth in this whole domain of measurement, and it's the golden era for measurement, really, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I learned my MMM from people who were doing it in the 1990s, 2000s, and I mean, cut to chase now, and they are like, "Hey, things have evolved so much," and yeah, I couldn't agree less with you, right? I mean, a lot of changes have happened. I think and it's for the good. Um, you also
True.
briefly talked about, what could break, the measurement. Maybe we are living in the false hope that, things are much easier now due to APIs. You can readily get data from the digital channels, but that also gives you a false sense of security. What, according to you, breaks a marketing analytics project? Is it the data? or is it the model?
Yeah, if you just say data and the model, uh, I think both have a role to play. Of course, both are components of it, so both have a role to play. But um, to the point that you mentioned about data, I think it's the similar thing like we say in the middle of ocean, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. I
Mhm.
think that's the situation with data these days. You can get whatever data you want. You just go and get deeper into a platform and you will get everything that has happened on the platform for every consumer in whichever form, of course, but it's not perfect data.
Mhm.
Also, I think for measurement, one key component which is there regarding data is having organization not only having a change in mindset about data.
Mhm.
It really needs some thinking to what data we need and what how the data should be able to talk to each other, or at least be congruent to each other so that we can study them together. So given those elements, I think while there is a lot of data around, but the data which speaks to you or the data which you can use is really a deal breaker.
Mhm.
And uh, I'm sure you have been doing it for quite some time. It takes months to get hold of the data to do a model, right? So I would say data, unfit data, if I may call it, it causes a lot of delays, and the missing part of it or the incongruent part of it creates a lot of blind spots, which one can't help it, right? In the modeling. On so data is a major component, major player in not being able to do good modeling, and that is something organizations need to fix for themselves.
Mhm.
Uh, the modeling part, yeah, I also remember uh, I studied market mix modeling during my engineering course and then applied statistics in management and so on and so forth. And we used to revel in using SPSS as a tool and work on it. It was extremely hands-on in terms of how we did market mix modeling. But now modeling is kind of available at the click of a button, right? Anybody can go to ChatGPT or any other AI tool and just ask for a model to be done. So doing a model is very easy, but doing the right model, I think today is just as difficult as ever. And that's where I think the break happens a lot. There are a lot of the term which I often use is pseudo specialists,
Mhm.
which are there in the market, and AI enables that a lot. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing for AI, because AI brings a lot of capabilities, but unless those capabilities are used by specialists, by people who know what they want to do, the models can be very misleading. With the same data, I can give you five different results, uh, and each one will be statistically great. Yeah. Uh, and I really, what should I say? I would be very, very careful of people who come to you and say, we've got AI, we do a model, and in 5 minutes it gives you 20,000 models, right? That's what it does. Uh, but it's not really about that. So, sorry, I'm digressing or stretching the answer, but between model and data, I think data is fundamental. Unless we have good, clean data, we cannot do the model. And on the model part, I think it's what breaks the model is not relying on specialists to do the model. I think that's very important.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Premjit. Yeah, I mean, nowadays you're absolutely right. You can just, invoke a cursor or a Claude, and it can give you certain pieces of code for making ML. But
Yeah,
sadly, nowadays people are not experts in under the hood mechanisms of,
absolutely.
MMM, and that could be, a huge point where things can go wrong. Definitely. A follow-up question to you. When it comes to marketing measurement, it is a clever balance between statistics and marketing. What proportion is ideal? Is it something like 60-40, 40-60, or is there a certain proportion that one must have to make marketing measurement a success?
Yeah, I think I would go with 100, right?
Okay.
In the sense that when I look at myself individually, right, between say marketing and analytics, if I were to say my knowledge, I might be scored differently by different people, but I would say I would say 70 or 80 on media strategy. I'm not even calling myself in the area of marketing, but 70 or 80 on that, and 20 to 30 on my knowledge of analytics or data science, whatever. Because
Mhm.
I'm not actually a data scientist. I cannot today do modeling, right?
Mhm.
I can attempt something. It would be exploratory, but it could be very false. But I do understand the under the hood part, so I can engage and know when a good a model is which is done is good or bad, which helps me work with data scientists. So I would rate my knowledge as a like a 70-30. But if I were to work with you, right, and I have no idea of your overall knowledge footprint, but I'm saying that you certainly would be 100 or something like that on analytics. And if we work together, that makes it 100. And that's what I mean. It's about having a team which is competent in both the domains, right? We cannot be compromising, saying that, okay, I know marketing, but it's okay if I don't know analytics, I will kind of make do, and the other way around. So I think as an individual, yes, we can rate ourselves, as you said, whether I'm 60-40 or 70-30 or 80-20. But for a execution of a project, we need 100 to be there.
Yeah, great point. Uh, while I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, I met a CMO, and we luckily got that project. And he made a very interesting comment. He said that, he has a good sniff test of a bad model, as a marketing expert. And I was like, wow, that's great. And he said that one of the reasons that he chose us because, he did the sniff test and we passed. So I was glad that, we passed the sniff test, but he was really remarkable, knowledgeable marketing person. And of course, he had the technical chops as well. And I'm sure, you are somebody like him for sure. And you can definitely, sniff test a model and say, hey, this is bad or this is good. And I think when you go up in the higher corporate ladder, that's all is required, right? You can't get into the weeds of things always, but you should have a good sniff test, to say that, hey, something is wrong with the model, do it again, right?
Absolutely, absolutely agreed. Of course, uh, as you go higher up, yes, you are getting lesser and lesser into the nuts and bolts of things. So I'm sure in terms of the analytics, one would not be doing it or really looking at each number yourself. But yeah, I kind of like the word sniff test, though I think it's more about making sure that key processes have been followed, right?
Mhm.
Because a model is only as good as the algorithms which have been used or the methods which has been used or the process which has been followed to deliver it. But yeah, even possibly a sniff test can tell you that. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think he meant when he said snip test, looking at the reports that we give them, the processes that
Right.
we
Right.
follow, and I
Correct.
think he alluded to that. Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, again, MM has been there since 1990s or even earlier, at least in India, I'm pretty sure it started in 1990s, 2000s. And fast forward now, MM is still going very strong. What explains the longevity of MM?
Yeah, as I said, I think MMM's been there forever. Like since I've
Yeah.
uh, been in college, it's been here. So it's not something new. It's just been a discovery by the marketing field, more popularly. Not that marketing was not using it earlier. A lot of the fundamentals of media planning that we know of today are derived out of market mix experiments done back in the 60s and 70s. So it was very much there, but in the current context, its resurgence, which is happening, is something new. But I think the key things that work for an MMM, if I think through it, I think the first wonderful thing about MMM is non-intrusive, right? You can let the world happen, you can let life happen, and then you can pick up the data about what measures it and gain insight into it. So that's one part that I think. The other point is that it is very inclusive, right? Uh, Not only it can talk to you about the whole funnel, it's not about whether I can only do the bottom funnel or the top funnel. It includes everything. And not only just the media investments, it takes into account the whole universe or the whole mix, as we call it, right? It can do that. So which is very, very helpful. So it is very inclusive. I think a major other part is which works for it, that it it has got a lot of information in it, in the sense that it explains a lot, right? What is very important for marketeers is to understand not only what is happening, but why is it happening. And market mix modeling really is able to explain a lot of things about the model, or the relationships that exist. And I think that helps a lot. So there are quite a few things which are working in favor of market mix measurement. Uh, there are debates often about whether it's good for prediction. For short term, I think it certainly is. Long term, we don't know. I'm not an expert to say that. There might be ways to do that. So these three or four things which they make there are, I think, make it a very powerful tool, and that accelerated by the growth in technology and uh, the AI and various stuff which is making it so much more accessible and faster. I think is it's set for only growing. It's not only MMM now. There's a whole ensemble of analytic techniques,
Mhm.
kind of the MMM portfolio, so to say. You can do frequentist, you can do Bayesian, you can uh, parallelly or close to it, you can get into uh, uh, the uh, XGBoost, ADH. You can do multiple algorithms are there which help you do that. Yeah. So it's here to stay, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You made a very beautiful point about non-intrusiveness of MM. I really like it. I'm still, thinking and, forming some ideas about it. And if I can just bounce those ideas with you right now, of course, there is the latest, belief that, both MMM and experimentation should go hand in hand. Um, I mean, if you were to do that, I would definitely say that experimentation will definitely play spoil sport for MMM in the sense that there will be always intrusion. You would say that, "Oh, I'm going to run this experiment from, let's say, January to March, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to observe the results." But when you're going to observe the
Right.
results, there's a gap in the data from, let's say, April to June. And then you would start the campaigns again. Eventually, when you're going to do MM, there are so many blocks of, data that is missing, right? What are your early thoughts on that? I know I'm just, bouncing off these ideas all of a sudden, but yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
So the fundamental question you're asking is how experimentation and MMM kind of interact or work together. Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. True, I agree. It's so there are clearly two schools of thought. One says experimentation is the what is that word used? North Star, or the
Hmm.
gold standard of incrementality.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not debating that. I always have learned. So when we grew up, we it was MMM which taught us the word incrementality. It was MMM which taught us
Yeah.
the word attribution. It's only over a period of time that now we have agreed as an industry that attribution is more about conversions and clicks, and that's the journey that
Hmm.
it takes. Incrementality is what comes from experiments, and if I may say, contribution to sales is something that's driven by MMM. So everybody is kind of agreed to that these are the key deliverables of each of those. Uh, so the first school of thought, as I said, is that experimentation is key, and that should be used to calibrate the MMM, right? Uh, if experimentation done well, I would agree. But experimentation, I think, is so difficult to do. It's not at all easy, and if really we were to go with a strong checklist on experiments done, I'm not
Hmm.
sure how many experiments would really stand the test and be cleared as these are valid experiments. So
Hmm.
it is very difficult to do right experiments. So therefore, taking that in a perfect world, yes, they could be used to calibrate. But again, then there are challenges of because that is very at the moment experience of the medium. It is tactical. It whether it takes into account all the factors or not, while we say this is my test and control and all, but how much does it really create a control and test those. So I have my skepticism around it. I'm not saying that the techniques are bad. A/B testing's been there, RCT's been there again for generations. It's not something which is new, but its application is kind of limited. So I am not very comfortable, at least now, how we can use that to calibrate the MMM, while there are so many volumes written on what's the best statistical way to include that into your market mix models. I am more comfortable with the thought of that they are a in the context of MMM, right? So while they have their own application, you certainly need to use experimentation to know more about whether my creative A is better or B is better or placement X is better or Y is better. Or when I've got a new platform, how is that platform performing because I have no historical data. Or when you have an event which is short term and MMM is unlikely to, show you the impact of it. So experimentation does have its place. But otherwise, as I said, it's more to get a sense of direction that am I doing what I'm getting in MMM, I can corroborate that with a experiment, right? So as I said, two schools of thought. One is
Mhm.
use experiments to calibrate the MMMs. The other is MMM is independent research by itself, study by itself. Experiments can only help you confirm some of the things. I think both work depends upon the person who's driving the modeling and measurement, that what he feels comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's a very insightful answer. Staying on the topic of MM, right? I mean, traditionally speaking, MM was applied in the CPG, FMCG domain, and we had the usual variables like distribution, price, promotion, TV.
Right.
But all of them changed, right, in the years. Now we have digital channels, we have TikTok, we have Meta, we have Google, and also right now we have LLMs. They have started to advertise as well. So
Right.
I don't know, maybe in the future we will include OpenAI and Perplexity ads also in
Yeah.
MM. But all of these are changes, right? And do you think the teams implementing them, the vendors have understood this? And do you think similarly the clients have understood the changes that have gone in terms of the variables that go into the model?
Yeah. I think fundamentally most advertisers, right? Again, I don't want any advertiser to call me up and say that hey, we are better than what you said. There certainly are people who are doing exceptional work, but fundamentally, I'm saying most of the people are still at the early levels of using MMMs, right? And even if they want to do more, I think the catch really is having the data, right? So as I always talk in internally and with various other clients stage is that the media data is usually fair amount of data is available, right? One can always debate that the data is not seamless. So Meta gives different parameters and Google gives different, and television is in another era and all of that. So all that is there, but still there is a fair amount of data that is available on for digital. And then we model with the end data sales, right? And we know nothing of the in-betweens, right? The
Mhm.
intermediates, as we call it. And one of the reasons why we don't know that, because once we've got the media data and various other distribution pricing and all data, I'm assuming CPG, if it is retail, or if it is a B2B, or if it is a car, then there is a lot more other things to consider. But still, I'm saying that all that is there. Intermediates, a lot of them are unavailable because I think as organizations, we do not have structured data for a lot of these, right? On the fly, we generate data on search volumes, or we generate data on sentiment, or not even sentiment, the volume of, say, talk on social media. And there could be various other things. So if you look at the consumer journey, I think there is a lot of data pieces missing for
Mhm.
the consumer journey. And therefore, like you rightly said, MMM has got a late capability. In the ecosystem, there is a lot of data being generated, but I think advertisers are still getting the basic fundamental MMM into place and still not being able to bring in all the other valuable data which can really change it. So you end up just knowing the ROI, you end up just knowing what the media mix is best to deliver a certain ROI. But what are the so media plans don't get made on sales as an
Mm-hmm.
output, right?
Mm-hmm.
While they want to drive sales, usually they are targeting an intermediate variable. They're targeting awareness, they are targeting some interaction, engagement. So there are various other elements, and I think with due data, with adequate data, those things can be added on into the MMM, and we can get a beautiful picture. We used to do path analysis long back, which uh, is I don't see that happening too much these days. Not that people are not doing multivariate kind of models, but it is not as much as I would have liked it to be. So I don't know whether I answered it. I get into different kind of mood as I talk about these things. Sorry.
No, no, it was really insightful. Again, my thoughts went into the latest statement that you made that, media plans are made with respect to not sales, but, the other intermediary KPIs. If you can please expand a little bit, like why does that happen? Is it that, media teams do not have a clear view of what the sales could be? Yeah, it's a huge hypothetical, right? I don't know. But uh, you think the intermediary KPIs are much more predictable, something like awareness or impression? Yeah, I would love to know from you.
Yeah, it's not because of lack of tools or data that they don't make plans on sales, right?
Mhm.
And this is totally my personal point of view. I
Yeah, yeah.
always believe that it's my point of view. Everybody has the right to whatever else they think, but uh, I think if you want to go to the moon, you can't straight jump to the moon, right? There are intermediate steps required because it is demanded by the consumer journey. You're trying uh, to get the consumer from stage one of the consumer journey to the next stage to the next stage, so that eventually the consumer comes to a point where he's ready to buy you and has everything to be able to buy you. Now one media plan cannot get you across the whole consumer journey. So for example, you could do a media plan on driving desire or driving the so-called category entry point, CEPs as it's popularly called. Now that CPs are only to get a set of consumers who are not thinking about the category, to get them engaged into the category, right? And
Mhm.
eventually later on they will start buy stuff and sales will happen. Or a lot of people, for example, don't buy you because maybe they don't know you, which is a classical awareness problem, or they know you but they don't think you can deliver what they want, right?
Mhm.
Uh, or so that the classical ladder, I don't think I need you, I need it, but I don't think you have it. And
Mhm.
sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. So there are three layers to what the basic communication planning thinking used to be. But I'm saying that so a media plan is supposed to take the consumer from point A in the consumer journey to point B in the consumer journey, and the sales might be another few points ahead of that. So you don't plan looking at sales, and that's what I said. If you have the modeling on the intermediate variables, right? If I have modeling on let's say consideration, that people know me but they're not considering me, what do I need to do start
Mhm.
making them consider me? And if I knew that what amount of consideration can I drive, and how does X percentage or per unit increase in consideration impact sales, then we would have that picture. But we can't make a media plan on sales directly. The media plan has to be made on consideration, right? How do I drive consideration, or how do I create desire so that the consumer comes into that category entry point and starts thinking about the category, right? Or if, for example, for a lot of impulse categories like candies, it's often about creating a buzz in the market. So the media plan is supposed to create talkability, because talkability then retains the top of mind as the person goes to the purchase counter and then asks for the product. So I'm saying there are different things that you make the media plan for. Sales is the uber objective, but you can't just make plans saying sales. That's then more like a conversion piece, which a lot of the top funnel cannot do, right? So I realize I tend to talk more about the brand part of advertising, as they call it, The conversion really can be about sales, but then that also without the picture of the top funnel would be suboptimal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a very insightful answer, Premjit. Thanks for that. Sorry for digressing a little bit, but you make me think a lot. Yeah,
No, it's good to talk about these
yeah.
topics. Yeah.
Yeah, you just alluded to the fact that you tend to talk more about the upper funnel. So, related question is that nowadays, you must have seen on LinkedIn, people say that, hey, there is no such thing as four piece of marketing, or there's no such thing as funnel of a marketing. Often feels like, in marketing, things are like, drawing a line on the beach. It just gets erased very soon. There is no permanence, yeah, that's what I feel. How do you look at things like this? Is there a funnel, or is there no funnel? Uh, you know, what is your take?
Yeah. So I believe, for example, when you look at the stock market, right, we always talk of that the investor as an individual is irrational, but
Hmm?
collectively they are rational, and that's why the whole technical analysis is based on the science of how crowds move, if I may use the word, right? That really
Mm-hmm.
is. So similarly in marketing, which is not really a science like physics, it is a social science. It's the science of how people behave. Uh, and that's important for us to keep in mind because a lot of people think that, oh, this is the funnel, I do this and 20% moves here and this happens. So it's never going to be like that. Yeah. But all these frameworks, whether it's the four P's or five C's, and there are so many that keep coming up. There is the IDA, which we grew up with, uh, and so on and so forth, right? The uh, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, all of that stuff, right? These are, I think, simplified frameworks which help us think. Yeah. And they are important and they exist, and but it's not about which is right or wrong. I believe it's about you have a framework which you are comfortable with, take that framework, stick to that framework, and use that as a reference not only for thinking but also for reporting and evaluating whatever you are doing. But it really is about going deeper into the consumer journey, right? Because brands are not built on generalizations, right? You cannot say that, oh, this is what is the general rule, and let me do the general rule, and my brand will grow. Uh, I personally believe in going deeper into the consumer journey, and it's far more granular than what these models talk of. And I think that's where the secret sauce is to be able to build strategies which are really going to make a change to the brand. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, you must have operated with a lot of companies in your career spanning 25 years, both millions of dollars of budget as well as, small, medium enterprises with not so huge budgets, right? What unique marketing measurement challenges arise in both the cases? How have you solved them in your career?
Yeah, I think you're right that they are very different entities to work with, right? The larger brands, of course, have far more exposure to measurement as a subject. They have a lot more data which is available with them,
Mm,
uh, and they have a fair amount of clarity on what they want.
mm,
But with it, I think it brings the challenge of so much more data. But as we said, the data today in the industry is not seamless. It's not clean data or fit data, if I may say, for modeling. So it's the challenges of managing the data just becomes so much more. At the same time, I think in a large advertiser, there are multiple decision makers. Yeah. And that complicates things. Unless you're working with a CMO, you might get a whole picture. Otherwise, you're usually operating in silos in that large organization, and therefore data from other parts of the organization may be rare to get, which again makes things difficult. But overall, yes, it is an enriching experience working with them. No doubt about it. The challenges are different, as I said.
mm,
With the smaller clients, I think it's a very different journey. It's to an extent there's a need for a lot of education in the beginning, right? A lot of them, I have seen clients really uh, really wondering, how did you know that television delivered so much and this other delivered so much? Where is it coming? It's almost like, did you do magic, or how do you know this is happening, right? The whole idea of, I'm not berating the smaller advertisers, but yes, a lot of marketeers do not have exposure to statistical techniques, and a lot of them are in the smaller brands, so to say, so they are fast evolving. But the delight of working with them is you have so much more control, right? Not only are they open to hearing what you want to do and how, and they let you do it, but they can pull out whatever data. While they have limited data, they will make anything happen to get that data to you. So the challenges are different, and the actionability is also, therefore there's usually a single decision maker in that area. Most often with the smaller ones, we are dealing with the CEO level, or at least the CMO level, if not higher than that, and that makes it far more engaging. So different challenges, but it's a joy to work with both. There are learnings for us in each of those interactions.
Understood. Uh, Earlier in the segment, we talked about incrementality, right? My co-founder, Ridhima, she had penned an excellent article saying that MMM is the biggest incrementality test that one could do because, it kind of gives you the base brand equity and then the subsequent contribution of, your media and marketing channels, right? But somehow this has got usurped by the experimentation community, and they say that, hey, incrementality, is what we do, which is like experimentation. And now MM is left standing saying that, hey, no, that is not the case. We were the original incrementality testers, right? Of course, now it's also become a huge buzzword, right? When I go
Yeah.
and pitch to clients and I say that, hey, MM itself can do incrementality tests, they look very bemused, right? And they say, no, 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 why don't you do separately a test, like an A/B testing and tell me what is incrementality? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of explanation that needs to be done right now because of this misinformation. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, totally agree to the sentiment which you are saying and what Riddhima would have gone through, because I have, as I said, very recently come to the terms that uh, MMM is not incrementality, right?
Mhm.
And I, as I explained to myself, therefore, is that in experimentation is evidence of incrementality, right? Whereas MMM infers incrementality, right? It really pains
Yeah.
me when I see a lot of credible people saying that MMM is nothing but correlation, right? It took me some effort to come to terms with it, though I understand fundamentally now what they are talking of. It's more, uh, they're more comfortable with a little more tangible evidence of incrementality. So like I said, now the industry has agreed to incrementality is experiments, and contribution is MMM, and clicks and conversions is attribution. So those three terms are now allocated to each of these techniques. But incrementality, I think, is a buzzword. It's going to grow. It is got a place in the measurement framework. Certainly, as I said little moments back, it is undeniably required for new things, for things which are short term, for finding something which is momentary at a point of time. Because I've seen a lot of people also using MMM in a bad way by doing a model over 3 years, then picking out 1 month and doing a deep dive into that and saying XYZ is happening, which can lead to a lot of spurious results. So for those kind of things, incrementality is very much required. So, but incrementality, I think what comes with it is, as I said earlier, again, it's not easy,
Yeah.
right? Uh, Building everything on incrementality is not possible, right? MMM is required. MMM, I personally believe, gives you incrementality. One can always debate how good that inference is or not. It gives you incrementality at what we always say, at a broader level, right? It can't go into creative level, placement level, and one should not do that with most MMMs unless it's really designed to do that. But uh, uh, incrementality can do that, but incrementality, as I said, needs a roadmap, right? You can't do one experiment and then say, oh, I am done and I have found this and this is the new truth and this is what we will live with in the future.
Mhm.
Incrementality needs a roadmap. You need to whatever you do during the festive season will not be applicable during the back to school season, and so on and so forth. So you need a roadmap for incrementality. You need a roadmap for incrementality in terms of the breadth of decisions that you want to measure. It is extremely difficult to do that because it is, like I said, MMM's non-intrusive. Incrementality is on the ground. So especially for advertisers which still have a huge offline sales presence, incrementality is very difficult when you're talking of sales as the final metric, because you very difficult to do multiple experiments and infer incrementality for each of them when the point of sales measurement is offline. So there are a lot of challenges to it. So in short, it serves a purpose. It is important. It is growing. It's going to be fundamental to measurement, but it cannot replace MMM. It's not about which is better or not. Each has a different function, and they need to learn to tango together and work on it, I think.
Yeah, great answer. Uh, just continuing on this topic, right? Let's also talk about dichotomies in marketing. Of course, marketing is very funny in the sense that, we give very funny names and pit a lot of things against each other. What are your opinions on brand marketing versus, performance marketing, reach versus frequency, creative versus channel, and of course, Les Binet's, 60/40 rule or Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow. But we can take it one step at a time. Let's go with brand marketing versus, performance marketing.
Yeah. As I said, it's a simplification, right? And
Hmm.
I see these more as so-called departments more in an organization than much to do with the consumer. Because when you're designing a media strategy, you are studying the consumer journey, and if that consumer journey tells you I need 80% of brand marketing or the top funnel or awareness driving or desire building, though that kind of activity, then so be it. Uh, if the analysis of the consumer journey tells you you are only supposed to drive search, and if inquiries go up, search goes up, then something else will happen. So, or if it is about people are exploring but they're not adding me to the cart or not buying me on the shop floor, on in retail. So different things are there, but it's I really think it's not about one versus the other. Both feed to each other, both are important, because I could do a ton of brand marketing but I'm unable to convert it to the point of sales. It with digital, it's become more accentuated, but it was always there, right? There always a retail marketing sales team's job was to do that. So they both work with each other. And the same time, if you do great performance marketing, but you are not really supplementing it or do not understand what value the brand marketing is bringing to it, you could really be paying for consumers who anyway would have bought for you. So it's not versus each other, and I think that debate is wrong. It's about really how the two can work together, because as I said, they are departments in advertiser side, they are or agency side. They are not really consumer journey definitions. Yeah.
Understood. So do you think brand marketing makes performance marketing work harder?
Certainly, I believe that.
Mhm.
Certainly, I believe that, right? So many times in all the modeling that we have done, we see that you turn off television and your
Mm.
efficiencies on performance or the bottom funnel part plummet, right? So undeniably, it is true. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have also observed the same, whenever a brand takes off their pedal, on brand performance, brand marketing, we inevitably see the sales kind of tank, not immediately, but it takes a bit of time, but it does. And to recover the same scenario, it takes a lot of time. You cannot go back to the same levels of brand equity in a quick amount of time. It takes again its own sweet time. So my follow-up question is, do you think less minutes, 60/40 makes sense? Uh, I think from our experience, it does. You need to spend 60% of your marketing budget on brand building and 40% on, performance marketing. What's your take?
Yeah, I agree. Again, I don't want to upset Byron Sharp, not that he's bothered about what I think or say.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yes, a 60/40, while again, sorry, I had a lot of asterisks as I've been I keep saying I don't believe in generalizations. It could be 70/30, it could be 80/20, it could be for the same brand in one season, it could be 60/40 in other, it could be something else, and so on and so forth. But at an aggregate level, that kind of sounds what is right, and I resonate more with that. Also, because while Byron Sharp, I'm not even debating the book, because even if I had a point of view, I don't think I have the empirical data or
Mhm.
the research to be able to discuss that with him in any form. But I've seen a lot of abuse of that on some brands, where it is a single-minded focus on reach. Uh, uh, I could have brand A and brand B, and without even bothering about it's like blindfold yourself, just create reach and forget about it. Somehow that doesn't gel with me. So I'm not saying that is Byron Sharp, but that's the application I have seen in some cases of Byron Sharp. So overall, I'm more aligned with the uh, 60/40 approach. Yes.
Mhm. Uh, you are a person who constantly upskills, and it's no wonder that you have had a career so long and vast, more than 25 years. And of course, thanks for enrolling in our experimentation course. Uh, you know, so what is the role of experimentation in model measurement stack? Why should every senior leader like yourself, have that particular tool in their arsenal?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for teaching me. Yeah, as I told you, I am on a continuum of learning always, and it is not for the joy of it, but I believe it is essential. The world is changing so rapidly, and new things are coming up. It's our job to be updated with whatever is happening. Having said that, on measurement, on experimentation as a subject, yes, it's extremely, as we said, it's has its place in the marketing framework, in the measurement framework. It is growing. Uh, I think it is getting integrated into most platforms in a meaningful way. But also, like what I said earlier already, is that there is a lot of misuse of it. When I say misuse, the intention may not be wrong, but
Mhm.
I said it's not easy to set up a pure experiment. And I think if senior market leaders are aware of the fallacies, they know what are the things to watch out for. If they have a sniff test for whether this is a good experiment or not, that is extremely important. And for that reason, I feel the knowledge on that is important, which is why I enrolled for your course, and I did a few others also, just to get to know. Because when I saw what was being done around me, somehow it made me uncomfortable that is this correct? But I did not know what to say or how to engage or how to dissect or evaluate experiment. But doing what I'm doing now, I think I'm improved in that sense to be able to say what is it, because ultimately that experiment, while it might just be a few $1,000s spent or a little more, but it can impact so much more media spends, and therefore it's important for senior marketing people to appreciate what it is. It is, while it's been existed again for centuries as a statistical technique, medical science has exploited it so much, but in advertising, it is something which is new. Again, it's another avatar on uh, uh, digital platforms, or what should I say, for example, if you have a website, they've been using it extensively, and large digital platforms have huge programs on experimentation. But the media and advertising world using experimentation is fairly new, and it is still evolving, and people are learning, and therefore there are a lot of things which need to be taken care of. And if the senior leadership knows what those things are, I think they will be able to manage that better.
Mhm. Understood. Premjit, let's talk about Gen AI, the most hot thing, in the last, I would say at least 2 to 3 years. A lot of people say that Google was caught napping, because OpenAI, took over. ChatGPT was more, familiar, more easy to use. But now they came back, right? With respect to Gemini 3, they have made a comeback. and people say that now Google is slightly ahead, and ChatGPT is fallen behind. Uh, how has this changed media strategy overall? Do you think people have changed in terms of how they search for information, and thereby, advertisers are also having to change, how they have to target these people?
Yeah, I think the early signals are there.
Mhm,
And first of all, I think not only Google's, if you use the word napping, but I think a lot of us professionals have been caught napping on it, right? So we are
mhm,
we are still catching up on AI. It's so nice to talk about it everywhere, but if I really uh, kind of introspect, there is so much to learn at our end on AI and how it's
mhm,
going to change what we do. From a brand search perspective, yes, it certainly made a dent in search, right? So the so-called Google search was always already suffering from the retail search
mhm,
kind of salvo which was there, and now this zero-click search is happening, which is doing that. So it certainly if impacted it, but I think it's uh, it's not so bad yet for search, right? There is still
mhm,
a lot of search that is happening, and also the realization of people on the so-called goodness of AI recommendations is also changing, which so we are yet to know which in the short term how it is going to move. In the long term, though, we know that AI is going to be a larger force than pure the traditional search as we know it. But again, media has been evolving always, right? Consumers have been changing the behavior. Media has therefore been evolving, and we are following that as advertisers, right? We are only mimicking what they are doing and trying to learn from it. And you must be aware there are already measures and tools which are in place talking of what mentions your brand gets in the recommendations, and there are tools to say how can you drive those mentions, and all that is still a evolving landscape. So major impact on media strategy, I think, as you said, it is impacting possibly only the search part of media strategy, which may not be very huge in the overall media strategy. And within that, as of today, it's not been a total breakdown, but yes, it is coming. But the industry is, I think, gearing up for it.
great. Uh, yeah, that was a insightful answer. Uh, Premjit, we are just few days away from 2026, the new year, right? What is your prediction for the following? You can state whether you're bullish or bearish for the same, and if you feel like, you can also please expand on it. So first up on my list is, of course, MMM. Are you bullish or bearish on it?
Absolutely, you're in the right industry. It's going to boom. It's only going to expand. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take it as you are bullish. Okay, experimentation, bullish or bearish?
Yes, experimentation also bullish. Yes, it's
Hmm.
at a very low level. Currently, it's going to increase a lot.
Uh, Causality in marketing, bullish or bearish?
When you say causality, it is
You can
about
include
MMMs and
experimentations.
experimentation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's the way forward. Accountability is much higher. It is the way forward. Yes, I'm
Hmm.
bullish.
And finally, a little bit of a tricky question in the sense that completely AI created creatives. You must have seen a lot of it nowadays. Are you bullish or bearish on it?
So while I don't get involved in the creative process too much,
Hmm.
do not have experience on that, but whatever I understand, AI in creative building is going to increase immensely. I'm bullish on that. But if you're particularly saying that untouched by human hand kind of creatives, I think that will take time. Yeah.
So you say that there has to be some supervision, involved.
Yeah, it's not coming out of my kind of skepticism about AI, but I think AI can give you five options, but ultimately, I think it's the human feel for what really will drive engagement, and of course the cultural context, the recency effect of what is happening, right?
Hmm.
So the Piyush Pandays of the world are something which are very difficult to replicate with AI.
Yeah, maybe as one of my marketing friends says, you have to round the edges a bit. I think that's where human element is required. Of course, AI could be really good, but still you will have to contextualize and give it meaning. So yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
We have come to almost the end of the podcast, Premjit. Any books or resources you would recommend to people looking to get started in marketing measurement and analytics?
Frankly, for me, the education has been to a large extent LinkedIn itself, right?
Hmm.
I'm sure you know there is so much knowledge around there, and if you follow the right leads and then go deeper into them, you get a lot of further education recommendations also. So a lot of my learning has been on that, and of course doing the courses because there is a lot of practical aspects to what we do. But in terms of books, if I may say, on experimentation, I had the fortune of doing a course with Ron Kohavi. I don't know
Oh,
whether
yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
spell his name correctly. And then subsequently or parallelly read his book on trustworthy experiments. I think that was a eye opener for me, right? It really told me how much I didn't know and how much possibly people around me didn't know. So that book I think is great, and he's a wonderful person to interact with. So that's something I would really recommend somebody to read. Though his teaching is not particularly about advertising
Hmm, hmm,
experimentation. It's about the larger set of how maybe a
hmm.
Google will decide whether the brand color should be dark blue or light blue. But at least the fundamentals of experimentation or A/B testing are extremely well presented. Uh, the I had that here somewhere actually. Yes, I don't know
Oh,
whether you can
yeah,
see
yeah. I
it.
can see it. Yeah, I have this book too. Yeah,
Yes, so this is it.
yeah.
The other one from here, what I could talk of is I don't read much these days, very frankly, it becomes difficult, but again, something very different. Uh, I
Rethinking work.
by Rishad, right? So
So
that's
yeah,
I think been very good for me personally because it's good to not that I usually don't do what they say books which tell you how to get better and all. I usually don't do that, but I think this was more about how the context is changing and therefore how you need to change. So those are the two things that come to my mind right now. Yes, though most of my other reading these days is more technical. So
yeah. Premjit, this has been really wonderful, having you. I mean, of course, you have a good library behind you. They often say that, there are people who have a library worth of knowledge in them. I would definitely say that you are one such person. Perhaps, once Elon Musk invents Neuralink, we can perhaps tap into your brain, and immortalize all your thinking in the future. That is my wishful thinking, but you do have a wealth of knowledge, and this podcast was just a small glimpse of it. I would urge all the audience to follow you extensively to get more out of you.
thank you so much, Venkat. You flatter me. I don't think I have a knowledge, but yeah, I do think I have a point of view. And yes, it's been lovely talking to you. The questions tell me how well thought out your whole so-called dissection of the subject was. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors ahead.
It was lovely having you. Bye.
Same. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Bye.